Yeah, I think we're ready to go. So, good morning, everybody. It's always a delight to welcome people to the Sense and Sensibility series that we have. And this time it's the 22nd session on gendered realities of everyday urban spaces. This session focuses on how gender shapes the way cities are experienced. We can stop sharing the background slide, right?
Yes, Akshita.
So this session focuses on how gender shapes the way cities are experienced as we dedicate this session to the recently concluded International Women's Day. I'd also like to inform everybody that we had our first Spot Fix roundtable recently, which was focused on architectural sites as gendered domains, which marked a critical shift in understanding social, gendered, and institutional environments. This dialogue brought together educators from BNCA Pune, which is an all-girls institution, and the Indira Gandhi Delhi Technical University for Women in Delhi, which is also an all-women's institution, as well as practicing architects from M plus P Architects, Space Matters, M plus P in Pune, Space Matters in Delhi, and Shimul Javri Kadri Architects in Mumbai, to examine how women navigate sites and their profession with safety and dignity. The panel and the sessions revealed a consistent reality that women struggle because the ecosystem around these sites does often excludes them, does not include them. Women usually face a lot of struggles on construction sites in terms of maybe communication, acceptance, sanitation, gender-based discrimination, and more. Over the years, this platform has evolved into a space where we discuss, debate, and find solutions to some of the most pressing challenges in the ACED community. Today, in our 22nd edition, we are joined by two inspiring personalities, a young one and a younger one, architect Madhvi Desai, who's a dear friend, and architect Rosie Paul, who has been associated with Ethos in different ways. And they will explore for us the theme gendered realities of everyday urban spaces. And will also dive into how gender shapes cities and, in fact, should shape cities. And also look into how people, how gender can shape spaces for everyday life for people in general, and also decide whether inclusion is real or performative. Architect Madhavi Desai will share insights on foregrounding questions of gender. She's been a proponent and a leader of sorts, and someone I look up to in this space. So she will be foregrounding questions of gender within the architectural history and discourse in India, while Rosie will present her work on engaging closely with women construction workers and site-based labor. And that's where one of our recent collaborations with Mason Zinc, Rosie, and Sridevi have been. On behalf of Ethos Foundation, I'd like to extend my gratitude to our institutional partners today for broadcasting this session for their students. I'll begin with Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. Yani Zail Singh School of Architecture and Planning, one of our strong supporters, Bhatinda. Pilu Modi College of Architecture, another old standing partner at Cuttack. Indira Gandhi Delhi Technical University for Women, who I just mentioned, from New Delhi. SMEF's BRIC group of institutes in Pune. Thakur School of Architecture and Planning, Mumbai. Srimati Manorma Bai Mundle College of Architecture in Nagpur. Purnima University in Jaipur. And Anjumani Islam Kalsekar Technical Campus in Navi Mumbai. I'm really happy that we had a alumnus from Ethos who's now teaching at Anjumani Islam, Sara Ginewala, and I'm really happy that they've joined us today. So Ethos Foundation's ongoing collaboration with the Rainmatter Foundation is both meaningful and significant. And this 22nd edition of the Sense and Sensibility lecture series is part of this continuing collaboration. Working closely across multiple initiatives, this association reflects a shared commitment to advancing climate action and embedding sustainability deeply within design education and practice. So as we listen to today's speakers, let us also hold on to this question. How can each of us, as students, teachers, and practitioners, become part of this larger movement for change? Before we begin, I'd like to share one of the initiatives which might benefit many present here. We will be sharing one registration link in the chat box as part of Innovation Series 2.0, which is on designing responsibly. This is a mentorship cohort and is an invitation to think, question, and build with purpose, conceived for students and young professionals exploring creative and socially conscious ideas. This initiative creates a space where early sparks of thought can grow through dialogue, mentorship, and shared learning. So we're really going to have one-on-one or one to a small cohort of mentorship sessions, where it could be on technology, it could be on resolving your problems as far as technology goes, as far as materials go, or as far as even looking at how funding and startups work. Mentorship in areas like startup and entrepreneurship, digital innovation, social innovation, material innovation is what is being planned. So I think the team has dropped this link in the chat box, and this is happening on 14th March, this Saturday. I'm now going to pass this on to Ankita. And before Ankita, maybe I'd like to invite Deepam Goel from the Maharaja Ranjit Singh Punjab Technical University to introduce our first speaker for the day. And I wish all of us a great session with Madhvi and Rosie. Is Deepam here? There you are, Deepam. Go ahead.
Yes.
Deepam, you can unmute yourself and start introducing.
It's a- Good morning, everyone. My name is Deepam Goyal, first year architecture student from GZS School of Architecture and Planning. It's my pleasure to welcome you all for today's session. Madhvi Desai is an architect, researcher, writer, and teacher. She was an adjunct faculty at SAP University Ahmedabad from 1986 to 2018. She has held research fellowships from the ICSSR and SARI, Delhi, as well as the Aga Khan Program for Islamic Architecture at MIT and the Getty Foundation in the USA. She is the co-founder of Women Architects Forum and more recently, the Feminist Collective in Architecture. She is the co-author, author, and editor of 7 books on Indian architecture, especially Gender and the Built Environment in India, Zuban 2017-2023, and Gender and the Indian City, South Asia Press, New Delhi 2022, and author Women, Architects, and Modernism in India, Routledge 2017. So now I welcome Madhvi ma'am to take over the presentation.
Madhvi, you're here? Ankita, you want to finish the second introduction as well while we wait for Madhvi? It's Fansika is here. Yeah.
I'm here.
Over to you, Madhvi. Yeah.
Is he going to finish the second introduction?
No, we'll go with you first. Yeah,
Okay, all right. So should I share the screen?
please.
Yes,
Alright.
ma'am.
Okay. Well, I'd like to start by thanking Geeta and the whole team for inviting me and for setting up the whole thing. When Geeta first invited me, I strongly resisted because I feel that online does not give me the satisfaction of really connecting with the audience. But when she told me that there are many colleges which will be involved, I thought it's extremely important to get some of these ideas across, especially to students and, of course, to practitioners and faculty members and others. So, because I think that gender concerns are not really known to many of the future architects, though it has a major impact on design, and we will be discussing some of these things. So I have titled my talk, Women and Everyday Spatial Negotiations in the Indian City. Just a little bit of the background, this century is a century of urbanization, and India constitutes the second largest urban system in the world. We know our population is large, and the urban population is increasing. At the same time, all of us are aware that the cities are by and large chaotic, almost all the cities, and we know the kind of problems of traffic, zoning, infrastructure, land use, etc. We've also increasingly become, a city of architecture of consumption through glossy buildings. Uh, as modern cities in India have evolved phenomenally since the mid 20th century, there are kind of two very clear situations with the cities. At one level, the cities are economic opportunity, and we have huge migration from the rural and the semi-rural, semi-urban areas. At the same time, we cannot deny that cities are places of inequality and injustice, etc. So here are some views of, how the other half lives. But, we really need to work towards making cities humane and nurturing towards multiple needs, multiple people. And my presentation is going to focus on women and non-binary people. When I say women, I include non-binary people, which are 50% of the population. And what are the concerns we are showing them? So that is going to be the focus of the city. So there are two very important areas, and we are not really going to focus on both of them. So on the left are these concerns of what Gita referred to is women as designers. And there are very clear schools of thought. And most of you probably belong to this school of thought where you don't want to be called women architects. But my own concern began with the fact that we have more than 50%, sometimes 80% of women students. And where are they in practice? But that is a complete another issue. We are not going to focus on that. What we are going to focus on, the gendered use of space, design, non-design. And I have listed some of these issues which we will be discussing a little more. The very important one is that there is discrimination in the use of design between both the genders, but it is very subtle and it is difficult to perceive. Because access to space is fundamentally related to status and power. Again, not very clearly visible. But the reality is at various levels, from the city to the neighborhood and from institutions to the dwelling, the relationship between men and women is expressed in the built form. Why this is not very clear is because the way we behave, it's culturally learned and internalized and accepted as a way of life. As we grow, nobody tells us that certain things you do, you don't do, but we just learn and we try to follow that. And that is where gender comes in. Gender is different from sex. So biologically, we are born as men and women, or a boy and a girl. But as we grow up through social and cultural experiences, we turn into our gendered beings. So we will be looking at some of these things in more in detail. Now, I would like to stress before we go further that there is, in the Indian society, there is a tremendous complexity and heterogeneity of women. So we cannot talk about, as when we say women, it's not just one set, and it depends on the intersectionality, the vulnerabilities of the women's location in terms of class, caste, religion, ethnicity, education, sexuality, occupation, whatnot. But what I'm going to talk about is more general, which applies to, almost all, or at least definitely the middle class woman. But I think we need to remember that, especially class, privileged class to which most of us belong, gives us an edge, uh, kind of keeps us away from many of the issues. So, gender in the built environment, what does it entail? So, in India, patriarchal ideologies shape all institutions, from the family to the police to spaces of knowledge production, which is universities, and it extends to the physical planning of the cities and general built environment. When I say police, we've heard stories of how they treat rape victims and etc. etc. So our own minds are very much part of this patriarchal ideology. The another huge problem we have is planning, governance, and management methodologies reflect gender neutral approach. The way we are taught in schools, most of the schools, we are told that, we don't discriminate. We are men and women are the same in today's 21st century India. But that is not really the case. So gender is generally downplayed in knowledge production, and it submerges the role of feminist knowledge. Now, I don't want to go into feminism too much, but feminism is a problem for most of the society in India because they look at it as foreign origin, that these are, feminism is against man, it is against marriages and whatnot. I say everywhere that we also have our own internal feminism. And I call Raja Ram Mohan Roy, who fought against Sati, as perhaps the first feminist in India. And there are other issues which I am not going to go into depth, but especially after COVID, because of so many um, situations in the city, women have lowered their participation in the workforce. And that is another issue we need to remember when we talk about planning and design, city design. So again, we come to other two issues, the gendered use of public and private spaces. So on your left, we have a village, a large village where the men are sitting at the entrance, having a good time, chilling out. And I want to just show this as an example of a gendered space. They don't know it, they didn't plan on it, but just imagine a young daughter-in-law trying to enter the village through this scene. On the other side is, women sitting in the courtyard of an old traditional house very comfortably, so this is not, I'm not saying that there is a clear divide between public and private, because very often there are gray areas. But the women are more associated with the inside and men are more associated with outside. Again, I want to stress that gender marginalization is difficult to perceive as it is very subtle, invisible compared to domestic violence, dowry deaths, sexual assault, sexual violence, etc. But again, for today's presentation, we will just touch upon the private space because I want you to not think that private spaces are not um discriminated against. But otherwise, because of the theme of today, we are going to focus on the public spaces. So, gender and domestic space. Why is this very important? Is because home is in a patriarchal society, home is the prime space for the woman of the house. Um, so very much her self-image and her social status is reflected in the home. So even if a woman is working outside, still she is responsible for not just the aesthetics of the home, but the running of the home, looking after the children, taking care of the older people, etc. etc. By and large, it is her responsibility. And very often, which I don't have time to explain here, but you must have noticed, all of you, in your own homes, the best spaces are given to the males, especially the head of the household, you know. And, but, many times people argue that the kitchen belongs to the woman. But is the kitchen a place of relaxation? It's a place of a lot of work. So, we need to question as designers when we are talking to, negotiating with the clients, if we are a little bit aware, little bit sensitive about, these divisions, what can we bring through design so that there is more equality in terms of space use. I know it's a challenge, but if I can just leave a question with you, I will be happy. So when we are outside, when men and women are outside the home, women's challenges are much greater because they face, again, what I call hidden barriers in the outside. So um, here you see a tea shop. This is a view outside a tea shop in Lucknow, where again, men have a lot of time to hang out, to chill out, and to stare at women. And we all know, the women in the audience know how uncomfortable it makes us. There are also many religious and other constraints where cannot freely mix or participate in the outer realm. Also, women have to have a purpose of being outside. If you are just hanging out someplace waiting for somebody, you become a public woman. So we are always going from one place to the other, shopping, giving ourselves some purpose of why we are. So basically, what I'm trying to say is men and women do not engage and experience the city in the same manner. Again, our question is where design can come in to reduce this gap. I'm sure we cannot eliminate it by ourselves. So coming to gender and the public space, which is the focus of today's presentation, I think we need to spend some time understanding the direct and indirect spaces of exclusion for women. I very strongly feel that, many times I get arguments like, who is stopping the women from coming? Public spaces are open, but they may be physically available, and they may not have distinct barriers, but they are still not socially or psychologically acceptable. In many middle class families, uh, women do not have freedom to just go out and participate for it. Social and economic constraints. If they are not earning, they're not independent. That, oh, I want to go and see a movie with my friends. So I think within the urban culture, we need to critically look at traditional bazaars, to parks, to shopping malls, railway and bus stations, gardens. How can design improve? How can we make more women participate? Because for me, just being safe. After the Nirbhaya incident, lot of concern is there for women's safety, and they put up CCTV cameras everywhere. I'm afraid the CCTV cameras are helpful after the crime is committed, probably not before. But it's not just about safety, it is about how women can fully participate in all the urban experiences, including pleasure. Do we have time for pleasure? I don't know. So, why is this important? Because at one level, there is an absence of a formal system within the government to include gender concerns. When there is physical planning going on, or um, other detailed work is going on. And also because we all go through the modernist education, everything is looked at as people. They don't want to separate men and women because there is the whole, it is treated as a non-issue. Men and women are the same. But we will try to look at some of these where the unequal gendered relations manifest in terms of mobility, governance, housing, water supply and sanitation infrastructure. We know women are the ones who have to go and get water from everywhere in the rural area, in the urban area, in education, neighborhoods, planning, and design. So my fundamental question is, why is this inequity not recognized by our traditional design and city planning professionals? Just one little example of how women are constrained. I talked about the social and economic constraints. Low percentage of ownership of vehicles for women. If there is one scooter in the house or one cycle, it goes to the man. So they end up having a lot of localized existence. The migrants who come into the city, the men might be able to uh, have a bicycle and go work someplace, but the women can only work in the walking distance area. Because therefore, neighborhood becomes their familiar public space. Many times they can go to temples and religious sites, or if there is a marriage or a death, there is a socially sanctioned outings. But what I would like to stress is women often do not have the time or space for relaxation. So here are some examples from my own city, Ahmedabad. This is the Manek Chowk, the heart of the old city, where it is a commercial setup. During the daytime, there are shops which sell jewelry and other things, and then there are a number of hawkers, and you can see the male dominance in the space. But at night, it turns into the food market. And women feel comfortable coming there alone or in a group at least, and sitting around and eating, enjoying the food. I think multiplicity of space use in the public realm is very remarkable and positive, and I think that could be one of our design goals. Good lighting at night is essential for women's comfort and safety. Our nearby space, which is called Dalgarwad, which is a kind of a shopping street, which is one or two of the only pedestrian streets in inner city Ahmedabad. And women feel very comfortable coming here and shopping. Uh, I think why it's because there is a interactive shopping, there is intimacy of human scale, there is a very interesting meandering movement, informal atmosphere, and rare pedestrian nature. Now I know that these are medieval spaces, but what can we learn from them? Can we apply some of this to our new designs? In contrast, is this Himalaya Mall a very successful mall? It represents a number of relatively popular leisure destinations, multiplexes, etc. If you see the inside space, it is huge. It accommodates a number of people, a number of shops, and it's very successful mall. But when you go and look at the parking, nobody has paid attention, or at least when I took the photograph, it is scary and for the safety of solitary women. So just because it is an artificially controlled world of fantasy, but because there is selling going on, they try to attract women with music and color and so-called safety, etc. Now here I'm sharing somebody's study, the municipality study about public toilets. We all know that public toilets are a huge problem for most of the cities, especially for the unequal city. And some of these visuals will tell you. So they had studied three kinds of toilets: community toilets, pay and use toilets, and public urinals. And some of the findings are like this. You can see the state outside the toilets, the garbage, the kind of doors they have, the broken doors, the absolute dirty situation. At night, this is again photo taken at night, but it's very, very scary. Here, this is saying only for women, and you see a man going inside. Men everywhere just dominate. They just think they can use anything all the time. Even slightly better places, this is a kind of new toilet, but look at the ventilation. And instead of really making it a better design, they have just painted it from outside. This place is located right in the middle of one of the bazaars. It's stinking. And I don't know if any women, I've never seen any women go in there. And by sheer contrast, I visited this toilet in Japan. This was before the Japanese invited all the famous architects to design toilets. And what I want to stress is that we must pay attention to the location. Where are we locating the toilets? We don't, women feel shy to go in front of lot of, how are the toilets designed? Does it have an indirect entrance? How are they maintained? And what is the lighting situation? So as designers, these are small things, but I think we can contribute a lot. So mobility, I don't have time to go into much detail of all of this, but in an urban area, what kind of transportation women have to go from one place to the other? It's extremely important because that is connected to the woman's livelihood, how much she can earn, how much time she has to spend in doing this, and how much money. In the middle class, money is extremely important, and that limits women from going very far to work. And we always, of course, have the challenge of the last mile connectivity. We may put up huge metros, but how are they connected to the other areas? So all I'm trying to say here is transportation, mobility are again gendered issues which the planning has to pay attention to. In India, there is not enough data, not enough gender segregated data, but we need to get into that. Before building all the statues, the tallest statues in the world, we need to get to some of these nitty-gritties of life. This is again, I'm using one of the ex-students' study. Now, I know that in schools of architecture, if you say that I'm doing a thesis on gender, it's usually very often discouraged. So this student, I don't know whether she was discouraged or not, but she took up what she called study of women's well-being. And she studied the BRTS system uh, from the women's viewpoint, how safe it is, etc., etc. And she came out with some of these very important issues. She felt that there is a need for toilets, there is a need for refreshment. These are all working women who are away from home for many, many hours. They need to spend time for themselves. They need some resting spaces. They need breathing space apart from home and workplace. They need eateries or tea stalls, maybe green open spaces, and which I thought was a very nice set of suggestions that she gave. And I will show you later on what kind of design she came up with. Now, again, some examples of the bus stands. I personally think the bus stand could become a kind of a urban hub, an information center, which could have a bit of a, have drinking water facility, toilet. It could display the content. I mean, it could be a safe space with eyes on the street, not hidden somewhere. And well lit, all bus stands have to be well lit. These are the realities, how women commute and how they are sexually harassed. This is in the newspaper, in a city like Ahmedabad, how many street lights were not working. Mostly these things don't even come out in the newspaper. This is another area of my criticism. Sabka vikas, vikas, vikas. We are always talking about robust infrastructure, mega, massive projects like flyovers and ring roads, which have huge public visibility. But where is the need? Part of that money could be spent somewhere else, and we'll see that earlier we talked about Singapore and Shanghai, and now we were talking about smart city, etc., etc. Please show me one truly successful smart city. All we see are fragmented efforts. Here is a kind of the people from the riverfront were replaced in these kind of housing, which you can see the kind of design it is there, and these things will probably start falling apart in 5 years. Again, the car owners in India are from 6.5 to 8%, but a lot of the financial investment goes for the four-wheelers. And the pedestrian and the cyclists are marginalized. So here in Mumbai, all the poor pedestrians have to climb so much to cross so that the cars can go easily. And this is another example from abroad where how pedestrians are treated. Even though the Supreme Court has said that right to unobstructed footpaths is part of right to life. I don't know who is listening. Oh, again, we have this gated communities which are increasing in all the metros, where the safety of the rich comes at the cost of the poor caregivers, because there are huge walls around this gated community. And the caregivers, especially women who work in all these gated communities, they have to work in badly lit roads at night without any considerations for them. In other parts of the world, people have been working on these gender issues, especially in the city of Vienna. And it is become a leader in gender mainstreaming. The city established in 1991, the city established a women's office called Frauenbüro. And it has already conducted 60 gender sensitive pilot projects and assessed another 1,000 from 1995. From stronger lighting on underpasses, footpaths, other urban nodes, with regular maintenance to design a work city for women, they have gone out of their way as a mainstream concern for women and the city. We also have some positive examples, but not enough, I think. So these are Mahila Garden in Delhi. Only women can go in, and they go in there with their children. They have kind of childish fun. They have chit chat, they relax. Their children might do homework over there. Then safety, for safety, we need more and more she cabs. And here is direct involvement of the women stakeholders. So these are some positive examples. This is from the student who earlier worked on the BRTS system, and she designed a kind of an addition at the end of the BRTS bus station, where she said it could have a toilet, a changing room facility for children, a resting place where maybe you can buy packed snacks, and a small medical store for emergency. It's another, I don't know if this has ever been implemented, but it's a very good effort. And I think we need more such design efforts. One huge problem we have is the urban planning in India, which is mostly in the hand of the government, and it has, we do master plans, we do development plans, we do master plans. There is hardly any role of urban design. And there are many other problems, which some of them I have listed here. And we need to critically look at the whole urban planning process. A good example is the Mumbai Master Plan 2034, where a whole lot of women's organization got together and forced the government to give land use parcels for women's facilities like public rest places, temporary shelter homes, hostels, crashes for children, even on construction sites, balwadis, communities, and resource centers. Now, this is a best practice that could be followed everywhere if there is a political will. How much time do I have? Can I quickly show the students' work?
Yes, ma'am. You can have 5, 7 more
Okay, no,
minutes.
5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So being a teacher, I cannot resist showing some of the students' work. I used to teach a course at SAPT University, sometimes called Gender and Architecture, sometimes called Gender in the Indian City, or Gender and Space. And because, many times people ask me how all these things that you are talking about, how does it get to the students? And there is, of course, multiple ways that we do this. Give some reading material, show films, invite people for interviews and give exercises, group discussions, all kinds of methods are used, but I'm only going to share some of the final products with you. This is one of the first exercise I do is gender analysis of one's own home. And this is when students begin to realize, where men and women are located, what is the priority given. And so sometimes the thinking starts. Then also I used to give an exercise of migrants and the city study. So they would choose a migrant, a man or a woman, and find out, what is he doing, where is he living, and how much of the city he knows and he participates in. What is the income? How is he spending the income? What kind of housing? And I think there was a huge learning in that. Then slowly I moved from just research and analysis to design suggestions. So this was again a low-cost housing that some of the students studied. And here we have the views of the interior spaces. And then at the next level, they did, which I don't have here, but they did certain design suggestions. Same thing, in another course, they studied the flower market in the city. And then they saw, men and women differently selling different things. And then they came out here you can see the kind of design solutions they tried to come out. And it was a critical analysis of a Mahila police station. It had newly come up at that time, a weird triangular Mahila police station. And it was a group project, and the students studied. And then without really breaking the walls, which they had no capacity to, they came out with design suggestions for the Mahilas to feel comfortable in the police station. So what all can be done? I have a long list. I don't have time to go through all this, but I think from the gender viewpoint, we need to take a critical review of the education process in design and planning. We need proactive roles and promotion in the profession, which means we need more women planners, more women decision makers, more women architects who come and lecture, who be part of your juries, etc. Then we need to do micro level research promotion. Without research, we cannot move. Then create more sensitivity and general awareness, application, action, exchange of best practices I already talked about, gender sensitization, training, counseling. Also design criteria for women's safety, which should include proper signage, land use, physical access. Do not hide where there is a great usage of women, because if it is hidden or dark, there is more risk. There should be visual connectivity, sufficient activity patterns, and intensity of people around. This is just one of here I would like to say that we are open to doing gender workshops in your colleges, if you like, 3-day workshops. And this is, a group of us started in January 2021, what we call Feminist Collective in Architecture, because we feel that it is not enough for us to be successful ourselves in the industry. But what can we do to the other women who are struggling in the patriarchal society, in the patriarchal profession? How can we help? And So our organization has had 3 annual conferences, and we do small other efforts. But I think this needs to spread. I think we all need to participate and come out with our own creative interventions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madhavi ji. That was a very refreshing and thought-provoking presentation. It was actually a masterclass in making the invisible visible, highlighting nuances that happens daily but are rarely interrogated as critical points to ponder. I was particularly moved by your discussion on gender-based architecture and how we can move beyond the patriarchal ideologies that still guide our approach to space. Your technical insights into lighting, scale, even multiplicity of spaces provided a clear framework for what we must consider to ensure everyone feels truly included. Furthermore, your pointers on public toilets, mobility, bus stands, even the hidden problems within gated communities, all of them proving that modern design doesn't always equal inclusive design. So your clarity and warmth made these complex social and architectural issues accessible and urgent. Thank you for giving us a new lens through which, one must view our environment and for sparking such a vital conversation. I'm sure the students and faculty and professionals who are listening to it have some major pointers to ponder over, and even a food for thought. Thank you so much. So with that, I would like to invite Anshika from Manit Bhopal to introduce our second speaker for the day. Over to you, Anshika.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. Before setting up her own practice, architect Rosie Paul was the head architect at Auroville Earth Institute. She holds a postgraduate degree in earthen architecture, local building cultures, and sustainable habitat from Keratere, France. The UNESCO chair for earthen architecture, she has been involved with several projects executed using earth technologies both locally and internationally, including Egypt, Morocco, and France. She is an issue lead on women and gender with Climate Heritage Network and has represented South Asia at UN Climate Change Conference COP26 and COP27.
Hello.
Yeah, over to you, Rosie, ma'am. You can start.
Hi. Hello, everyone. I'm really glad that I share the stage with some amazing women that I inspire from, them being both Madhavi ma'am and Geeta ma'am. Today, I'd like to, before I start my presentation, I have to also apologize for my voice. I'm just getting over a flu, so I hope I'm still audible and you can make out what I'm saying. So I will be talking about how a construction site can also be a space which looks particularly at gender and how a construction site can be, uh, can be worked on to be available and accessible to women on the site, and a space for learning and skilling, and a place to come away from um, um, certain certain social constraints that we normally see on construction sites. So I'll be particularly talking about a project where we trained women to become masons, and especially become masons in alternate construction techniques. So the reason why this project is close to my heart is also, I think before I start my presentation, I have to explain a little bit about how construction sites are today and have been for a long time, and how the women on these construction sites are generally treated, or if any sort of training is given to them. So in India, something that is great about India is that there are women on construction sites. That's not a very commonly that's not very commonly seen um, anywhere else in the world. Only a few other countries have women on construction sites. So I think India is doing well in that sense, where there are women on these sites. But somewhere where the government and us as practitioners need to start paying attention is what are they doing there, and how much assistance are they getting to grow in that on that construction site? Is there any assistance in the training that they're given, so that they can become they can move from being just helpers on the site, carrying all the heavy loads, bringing the materials, carrying the bricks on their shoulders, moving higher from being helpers to masons, and then on to being master masons, etc. So usually on construction sites in India, a lot of informal learning happens there, for both men and women. So the construction industry is the second largest employer after agriculture. So there's a lot of migrant laborers. There's a lot of migrant laborers coming on and learning on the job. So usually they start by being helpers, and then they, when they do well there, the mason there will kind of informally train the males to then become, masons themselves, and then go higher in the ladder. But something that is not happening and does not happen on these sites is the women don't get trained. So the women remain as helpers throughout. And this is due to various reasons. I don't understand. One is also, societal issues, where they're conditioned to think that, they can't climb, high, um, they cannot climb heights. They cannot be trained. They cannot build walls, etc. These are psychological constraints or social conditioning that has happened. There's also issues where the male masons don't want to see. So usually the every site, most of the sites have these families coming in because they are the migrant population. So they have the husband, the wife, and the kid is usually on the site itself. That's why you see kids as well on the site. So a lot of these men don't want their women to have a same job as them, because they feel like it looks less on them to have their wives do the same role they do. So there's a lot of issues like that. I don't think we have time to go into each of them now. But so this is where our project kind of stands out, where with a client of ours who was questioning the norm, asked why not look at a construction site that is purely led by women, where it's the women who train the women, and they become masons, they build structures, etc. And also Masons Inc., my practice, we are a sustainable, we promote sustainability, and we work on sustainable materials. So the client also wanted a site which uses no cement at all. So is it okay if I share the presentation, Ankita?
Yes, fine.
Yeah.
Akshita, you can start. Yeah.
Yeah. So so we had a client who came to us saying, you know what, I believe that this project can be something that is different from the norm, all the issues that I explained. She wanted a completely cement-free project. So this project uses no cement. No cement has entered this site. And this project was entirely built by training women to become masons in different in different green practices, which I'll take you through slowly.
ಅದಾದ್ರೆ ಅವಾಗೆಲ್ಲ ಮನೆ ಇತ್ತು ಆದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹಾಕೋದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಮಣ್ಣು ಕಲಸಿ ಮಣ್ಣು ಇಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರಿ ಕೊಂಡ್ರಕೋದ್ರನ್ನ ಆನ ಮೇಸ್ತ್ರಿ ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಸಾಕು ಅದೇ ಇಷ್ಟು ಅಂಡಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಸಾಕ
So this is Cherville and the women of Cherville, our project. We call it Cherville. The person in the center is our client. And this is a completely women-led project, right from the client to the architects, to the site supervisor, to the site architect, and all the women here that were part of the construction. So the project was, questioning the very idea of a construction site itself, right from the materials used in the project to the ones building the project as well. So we were looking at very basic materials since it was decided very early on that there won't be any cement coming onto the site. We were looking at basically just using soil, using the stone available in and around the site, and lime as the primary stabilizer, and also some natural additives that are traditionally known to bring about better durability for these constructions. So here the women, this was the first time these women were working on a construction site and actually building things themselves. So they were earlier farm help. So they would just help during harvest season or, to do, the plucking, the clearing of sites, etc. So this is how we first met these women. We realized that they did have an interest to learn construction, that they wanted to be part of something bigger. And then, we started this process, and it was very lucky that the client was also on board, because the primary funding is from the client herself. And, we were not only looking at simpler, more efficient, cost-effective ways of construction, but also looking at how we can bring about this social change. So we had to work on a lot of things. Also in the psychology of these women, many times, what we realized is when there was some electric use of, devices, they'd be like, maybe the men should come and do it. We had to tell them, see, if there's anything that you try it, and if you can't do it, then we'll get the men on board. And then, slowly we worked through their confidence and trained them on different techniques. Of course, it was not that men were not allowed on site. A lot of men didn't want to come on board because they kind of challenged this idea of women building something. But of course, there are men who support these kind of initiatives and don't really care about the gender building it. So we had certain men come and help train these women in things that they did not know. So what you see here is we were training them right from the start on how to do a cost-effective foundation, And the men who knew how to do it, we had a mason come and train them on how to do that. And then also the construction, we kind of worked around it and also decided on certain techniques that we would use based on what was easy for the women to work with. So we are experts in earthen construction. And most often, before we started working on the main building, we would do small prototypes to see what is it that they're able to pick up easily, and what is it that they're able to understand. What is it that comes naturally to them from, from their memory of building their own homes or maintaining their own homes. So this is a wattle and daub techniques that we were first trying out on a storage shed. And we realized that it was very easy for the women to pick this up because either some of them are still living in mud homes or have lived in them. And this is a very easy way of construction where, you have a base bamboo skeleton, and then you daub mud over it. And then you do a plastering finish. So it was clear to us that a lot of the structure can be done out of wattle and daub. We also tried, the efficiency and effectiveness of Adobe blocks, looking at, productivity, looking at how many they can make, how strong they are, if it still works out, etc. And then we decided finally that the main structure would be out of these earth bags, as our structure was these earthen domes. So these earth bag domes is what we finally zeroed in on, and with certain areas being of wattle and daub. So here the earth bag dome is one where the normal construction is, you take these waste cement bags and you fill them with soil, you tamp them, and then you keep building them. So each of these blocks become these large format bricks that you keep building one on top of the other. So since we were looking at construction alternatives that question the norm, we also decided to use these waste onion vegetable bags. I think you would have seen them when you go to the market, where right now they put the vegetables in these kind of sacks, which is made of plastic. So we wanted to reuse that. We also felt like this would help in the plastering to happen more easily, as it had that rough texture. And it was really incredible to see, how the women picked it up. And as the walls went up, how they kind of got over certain fears or certain certain things that they told themselves which were not necessarily true. From climbing these heights, to seeing their confidence grow as the walls came up was a really good a good testament for us to know that we were going the right way. Something that we also did is, so the main materials were bamboo as well. So we trained the women in lime plastering. We also looked at a completely cement-free tank, which was done with lime mortar and red bricks. This is our site architect. Her name is Ovia. I think she had a huge role to play in bringing these women on the same page, in building their confidence in the everyday. And what was nice was also that when the project started, she was just a fresher out of college. We were looking for a site supervisor, and she contacted us, and she said that she believes in the project and wants to be part of it. And we took her on. Though we were looking for someone with experience, we were looking at 2 or 3 years experience. We were not necessarily looking for a female. She came about and she said, she wanted to be part of the project, and we're so glad that we said yes to that. Just some pictures of the lime tank. Another thing that we did was also bring in master craftsmen and master artisans to come and train these women in different techniques. So this is an intergenerational lime artisan. So what I mean by intergenerational is his traditional knowledge of working with lime has been passed on from his father, from his grandfather to his father, from his father to himself. And um, and in this way, when we encourage, and through him we also bring about this skill, we transfer this knowledge and skill to others. We're also helping in the survival of these kind of techniques and knowledge, and also encouraging them to to continue on with their skill. So he came and taught the women how to work with lime in such a way that they would give us durable lime texture and finishes. What is interesting also is when it comes to natural building, I think this is where working with women who don't generally work in on construction sites and this natural building where they come together is also very often there are a lot of things that are used in the kitchen that were used here as well. So certain additives that we added into our lime mixes, or the way we were making the lime into paste was using this grinding stone. Things like that that the women were quite familiar with, and it was easy to get them kind of used to this. And these are just some finishes, the base plaster finish on the left and the final on the right. So we even opened up the site as site schools where people could come in and learn certain techniques when we were doing them. So this is them after they finished their lime sump tank, and they were proudly, standing on it, and very proud of their achievement. Something we also did was have these hybrid learning sessions. So a large part of the project, like the roof, was bamboo. These were again wattle and daub walls for the main structure. So we did bring in experts from the Northeast who work with bamboo a lot. And we had these hybrid training sessions where the women were teaching them how to work with the mud, and they were teaching the women how to work with the bamboo. And we also found this quite interesting to see these roles, and we kind of made sure that they had these hybrid sessions as well, so that they get more and more comfortable working with men, and also to understand how welcoming men are to taking instructions from women. So the other thing is also that when we decided to work with these women on site, I think a lot of it goes beyond also the physical construction. We have to look at, you know, removing the social conditioning that has happened um, through the years, also finding ways in which they can be made comfortable to express their thoughts, etc. So we brought on a community researcher who came up with certain participatory learning activities. So what you see here is where we worked with clay and we made them kind of define or model the homes that they had in mind. And it was interesting because if you take a pen and then you ask them to draw it, they won't feel comfortable because they're not comfortable with a pen. So, coming up with interesting ways in which they can express themselves. And clay is something that they're very used to because during their festivals, they make these clay pots. They make a lot of things in clay. So then, trying to see if they can draw certain things. We also had, so we introduced a lot of things on site that help them intuitively or regain their confidence, where we had these interns come on site and learn from these women. So the women slowly started taking onus, started teaching, started showing them the right way to do it. And it was a really great learning for us as well. And also a point of great joy to see how far they've come from when they started. And I also just wanted to end by saying that, a construction site doesn't have to be, a depressing place, which is just, deadlines and a morose place. But if you give the respect that the people deserve, if you give them the space, it can actually be a happy place where they can express themselves and have fun while doing it. I'll just play this video. So that's all I have for today, and looking forward to our discussion ahead. I also just wanted to add that, to make this possible, we did have to make some changes as well. We did have to change the timings. We started a little later. Otherwise, usually construction sites starts around 7:30, so they can end early. We started later so that they could finish the work they had at home. We had to acknowledge that, women, them being women, they needed to look after their kids. Their kids needed to go to school, and then they needed to come to work. So we changed the timings. We tried to improve their nutrition by adding meals on site. And a lot of small changes like that made a big difference to the whole idea of having women as masons, and giving them the space to grow their confidence in the whole process. Thank you.
I think I'd like to just step in to thank Madhvi and Rosie for their deep insights. Very, very different scenarios that were addressed by both of you. And I think, while Rosie was talking about site and construction workers, I think Madhvi spoke about the larger picture and also woke us up to so much that, the role that each of us have to play in questioning, in, prodding people, in being the conscience of many people when they're doing projects. And because we need to be in positions of responsibility to be able to even question when you're talking about city level. Very often, many of us may not have a say, but as individuals. So how do we collectively begin to have that say is also something that we need to start probably looking at it together. Yeah. I think we have a Q&A moderated by some students. Is that right? I don't know how it's being done.
No, ma'am, Ramya will
Yes, we need. Great.
moderate the
Okay,
Q&A.
super. Over to you, Ramya.
Yes, thank you. So, so before that, I'll also just like to say that, Rosiji, your presentation was really good. It's so nice to see the women actually owning the site and being so comfortable and expressing themselves. So it was really nice to see how they've come to that, and that level through this process of being in the site, experiencing, learning. So yeah, that's something that really stood out to me while I was listening to you.
So Rosie, I'm in Bangalore, so maybe in the next month or so, I can plan a visit to to Bangalore and see the site as well. You're on mute, but yeah.
Yeah, we should definitely look at.
Yes.
So yes, so I think I'll go to the Q&A section now. So we have few questions, which we have received through a Google form, which we have floated as well. So I think I will take the questions in the chat box first, because I think there are one or two questions, and then I'll go to the Google form. And while we take that, and if somebody else, puts some question in the chat box, I think I'll come back to that as well. So I think just going to the chat box. So the first question is to Rosie ji. It's from Moish Zara. I hope I am not butchering the name. So she is asking if there is any post-occupancy studies of these buildings and see how people are maintaining these over time.
So this particular building just got completed. So this one doesn't have a post occupancy yet. But generally we do have post occupancy that we do one at 6 months and one at 1 year. But I think you mean more from a material perspective here. I think that's what you mean when you ask post occupancy for these kind of buildings. So since we work a lot with these natural materials, um, I mean, it's a tried and tested thing. So, but post occupancy is always important to know how well they perform. We mostly also look at a lot of passive techniques to reduce the energy required for the operational phase of the building. So yes, we do post occupancy for them. Even for this building, after probably a few months, we will check it. But from what the client says, it is very comfortable because right now the walls are at least 1.5 feet thick. So it is extremely comfortable to be inside even when it's peak summers.
Thank you, Rosiji. The next question is from Sarah Fatima from DSCA. I was curious about how different the environment of safety was for you and your team in this project as opposed to a typical male-dominated site. Do you believe we can pull this environment into mainstream construction?
So I think here certain things for us was easier to do because it was a completely women-led site. So there were men on it, but only the men who came in as experts to teach something. So the women did have that space to show fear, to show hesitation, but slowly come out of it. And we also kind of gave them the space for that. So the construction was slow. Like I think one of the main focus were these women. So it wasn't about, oh, we need to finish this you have, in 5 days, the foundation needs to be done, or in 10 days, this needs to be done. It was more, okay, let's teach them, let's see what works. So it was a site with experimentation and learning, and the client was also very much on board with that. So we kind of molded the site, I would say, to what the women needed. So where in certain techniques that needed more time, we took longer for them to learn it, for them to do it. Certain things that happened fast, we could go faster. Once the women picked up certain techniques, we could move much faster in them. Also, yes, of course, like I said, we made it comfortable. We started the site late. We ended late, as in we started around say 8:39, so that they could just finish all their work at home and then come. We stopped before it got dark. So yes, lesser work hours, but still, like, that was not something that we felt was detrimental to the project. So in a lot of ways, I think it was easier for us to bring it into mainstream where there are men around. I think it's also like there's so many other issues to deal with, right? Like the social conditioning, men feeling like they're at a threat because now, women are saying I can do the same thing. So there's so many things to work around. But I think with proper planning or kind of figuring out how we can kind of come on without them feeling threatened would be a good thing to try and figure out. Because there have been cases, where there was these classes, like not something we've done, but I know that certain training programs for women that were giving certifications, once they're done with the training, their husbands had a problem because they said, I've been a mason for this many years and I don't have a certificate. Why does my wife get one? And there are all of these issues that, like, need to be slowly kind of understood and worked around. So I think it's a little bit tougher when it comes to a site that has both men and women. But I think, yeah, with help of other minds on it, trying to see, how we can get there and also have the same space without threatening the others would be the challenge. Yeah.
Thank you, Rosie ji. Now the next question is to Madhvi ji. So, this question is by Janice, student from Maharaja Ranjit Singh Punjab Technical University, and this question is, why do you think gender sensitive planning is still not mainstream in architecture education?
Okay, so there are many reasons for this. I think I alluded to some of them, but one is that we've had women's studies in India from 1970s onwards, and they have done a lot of research in our own context. But unfortunately, schools of architecture are not connected with that, or we are not using the knowledge which has been generated. That is one reason. The other is that there is no real understanding of the need for gender mainstreaming. Because, the way, I'm sorry to say, but I always say that the 10, 15 successful women architects are used as symbols of equality. So our profession does not think that there is any gendered issue at all. And again, there is not our IIA and the COA, or they don't spend any energy or money on conducting research to really address some of these issues. Also, as I said, the government planners and all, the modernist education, everyone kind of doesn't pay enough attention. So it's a very complex kind of situation. And I think we all need to do something at our own level.
Yeah, just a question attached to this. As a student, how do you think, like, how do you suggest they begin looking at it from their own, like from their own lens and viewpoint when
I
if they're
think,
pursuing?
I think once you develop certain sensitivity, you will, it will give you a path how to look at it. You need to start reading certain books, which one needs to start reading books which kind of give you this idea. What I would like to stress is it's very important to look at our own context as far as possible, because there are plenty of Western books, but our social, political, economic, other conditions are very specific to our society. So then I think a lot needs to be done at the education institutional level. So I have said in one article somewhere that, why don't we have studio projects of designing crashes, designing balwadis, women's hostel, women's hospital? I mean, why do we always need to design other big projects? Why do we not have women being represented in juries enough? Now I know things have changed since I was in school, but we need to make conscious efforts so that you also need to have, the young girls also need to have mentors, role models, people they can go and talk. Very often, why do women leave architecture after the 5 years of hard work? I think it's a very important question which, you know, needs to be seriously analyzed and looked at, and not just sweep it aside as social issue, social issue. Now, there's a lot that can be done. We cannot interfere in the family, but after that, in the professional education, within the profession itself, in places like Australia, they are already doing a lot how to make the workplace friendlier for pregnant women, for women who want to come back into the profession after giving birth, young mothers. Are we providing crashes in big offices? I doubt it in India. So there is a lot that can be done at many levels.
Okay. The next question is again to Madhavi ji. This is from Komal, student from GZSSAP, Bathinda. Most urban data is gender blind. What is the one specific policy or design standard you believe would have the biggest immediate impact on the gender reality of our current streets?
Can you say it again?
Yes. Most urban data is gender blind.
Yes.
What is that one specific policy or design standard you believe would have the biggest immediate impact on the gender reality of our streets?
Of our streets.
Yeah, streets.
Okay. Now I don't think this is a question that can be very quickly answered, but I will try. So in the 1960s, Jane Jacobs talked about eyes on the street, right, for the safety of women. So especially in our areas, the commercial areas, etc., we need to have the street which has multiple functions. So not just offices which kind of lock up at night. Then that means there are no, okay, to have vendors, but to have properly designed areas for vendors makes it really safe. A good lighting, insist on lighting, maintenance of lights, footpaths, benches, to make us, there have been experiments, if I'm not mistaken, in Bangalore. Maybe Rosie can tell us, or maybe Geeta can tell us, where they have tried to design a street which is safe and which is lively, friendly, connected to nature. So I don't know what else can be done, but there is an ample space for us to design well, to design for safety.
Thank you, Madhuji. Then there's one question in the chat box. I am an architect from Bangladesh. I have a question regarding the conservative mind of women. There are some particular group of women who are very conservative minded. They don't go out. If they need something, they just send someone to the bazaar. They need to do some spatial interaction, but they can't do that due to conservative self. So as an architect, when we look into this, what can we do about this matter? How these two things can coexist, both spatial interaction and conservativeness?
Conservativeness.
Yes.
So as I said, we cannot help what is happening in the family. But I don't know. I don't know really the actual situation in your society in Bangladesh, but I think the family is one of the first layer of patriarchy which needs to be broken. And I don't know how they do it, but I know how I was brought up. So my parents started sending me to the bank when I was maybe 10 or 12 years old. they slowly started, I myself started sending my own girls in the bus alone when they were 8 years old. You have to really break the shackles at the family level, and it not just of the physical spatial experience, but of the mind. So just plain education is probably not enough, but how we bring up our children and how we get them towards a kind of a confidence which makes them comfortable in going out and participating. It's a very difficult question to really answer properly.
Thank you, Madhvi ji. One question to Rosi ji. So when you were trying to bring in the women for this project that you just showed to us right now, was it very difficult, or how easy or difficult was it to encourage them to do it initially? Like, how was that process?
I think basically the women that came forward were women who had actually first come to help with some site clearing and things like that. And that's when the client was like, we understood that there were other issues as well, where there was this middleman who was kind of hiring these women to do it, and then the money would go to him, and then they would be paid uh, only half of what we were paying actually. So I think a lot of it had to do with also a client that didn't want to be okay with whatever was going on and to question that. So she actually did stand up against these middlemen. She went to these women and we spoke to them, and they said they are interested, and then we slowly started working with them. So of course, it was not the easiest thing because we were doing something different from what is normally followed. So anytime you have to do something differently, it takes a little bit more effort. But something that made it easy, I think, was all the stakeholders on the project were on board, and were on board like completely. So even the client was not a whim that she said, "Oh, let's do this with women." We all went on completely understanding that there would be issues that we would work around, but also with the understanding that we will try and see how we can do things differently and see if it can be a successful model that can be taken up later. And that being said, with the project now over, it was a big learning for us as well. Now the next time we do something like this, maybe we will do certain things differently. For instance, our community research person came on at a later stage, but now we realize that that person needs to be on from the beginning. That person who will communicate what we want and understand, be that bridge between the women and us, because we all come from different backgrounds. We all need some sort of extra processes to understand and bridge that gap that we have, no matter, caste, society, class, all of that. And it's been a very humbling experience as well, because when we started, I think we were very, we said at the end of this, we want this women's team that will kind of take on other projects and build more. And I think to a large part, we did achieve success, especially with a site architect, because now she has her own firm. She is taking up projects there, and having some of these women help with that. And these women have become expert lime plasterers. So anybody in that area who needs it, they can do it. But some things that we've understood also is that they need a little bit more agency. They're still not okay to work alone. I mean, if the site architect is there, they're more than happy to work with her. But they don't have that confidence to start a team on their own, which is what we thought we might have. So I think maybe that was overreaching, being over enthusiastic, because these are certain societal conditioning. I mean, change can happen, but it is a slow process, and it needs to be a continued process. So yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping that this project did help in their confidence, help them to know that they can do what they think is impossible. Um, and we're also doing this exhibition. I mean, along with thanks to Ethos Foundation, we're going to do an exhibition on this site to bring these women and the community around to know what they've done, get the women to bring their families for them to understand and gain pride from whatever efforts they've put in. And we've understood that that is also an important part of this whole journey, right? So in a normal construction, you don't think of all of these things. You don't think of, it's basically, you have this building, you have to build it in this much time, and then you leave. But then when you're thinking of creating a positive change, positive social change, it needs to go beyond the building and start looking at the people who are doing it and what it needs, what they need to get a positive impact from that building. So not only gaining skills, but also gaining confidence, competence, etc. And all the stakeholders kind of helping and putting things in place that will help them gain all of that.
Thank you, Rosiji. So we have like some 83 odd questions, but obviously we won't be able to take all of them. So these were some of the questions which we thought.
I would recommend that you collate them in some manner, and
Yes.
depending on who it is for, send it as an email
Yeah.
to Madhvi and Rosie, and they can respond, and we can send it to, can put it up somewhere so everybody can get their answers. I don't think we should
Yes.
that because it's an important topic. Yeah.
Yes, sure. So we will do that. We will collate those questions and send it to you. So with this, I think now we can end the Q&A session. I thank the participants for their wonderful questions, and to our speakers for your thoughtful and generous responses. It's been inspiring to hear how both of you weave together ideas of gender realities in urban design. So both of you, I mean, the context was different, but in the end, I think we're all speaking about the same thing. So it's been really interesting and insightful. With that, I would like to hand it back to Ankita for the closing.
Thank you, Ramya. Yeah, I would like to thank Rovi and Madhu and every student and participant who joined us today. We are deeply grateful to our speakers for sharing their insights, experiences, and perspectives that help unpack how gender shapes the way cities are experienced, inhabited, and constructed in everyday life. Your voices spark meaningful conversations and encourage us to look at urban spaces with great sensitivity and awareness. A heartfelt thank you as well to all the participants who joined, engaged, and contributed to the dialogue. Your presence and thoughtful interactions made the discussion richer and more impactful. Together, these conversations help us move towards cities that are more inclusive, equitable, and responsive to diverse lived experiences. May today's conversation inspire you with both imagination and responsibility. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you at the next Sense and Sensibility session.
Thanks,
Thank
Madhvi. Thank
you.
you so much. Thanks, Rosie.
Hi, Rosie.
Hello.
Rosie, hi.
Hi, Dorji.
Oh, look who's coming.
Uh-huh.
That Mickey.
Yeah, Mickey's been
Hi.
listening.
Lots of
I
love.
said it's the same thing. Why you want to listen, Okay, bye. Thank you,
Thank you.
Geeta.
Thanks so
Thank you,
much.
Ankita.
Bye.
Thank you, Ramya. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Rosie.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Yes.
Bye.